Another thing that to me is really important is what can I do to give you a better understanding of organizations or companies you may be working with, working for, running, being a part of, whatever. How can I give you greater insights into evaluating and understanding organizations? And we've done that a lot in this class through looking at leaders and looking at the way organizations behave. All right, pretty simple. This axis down here, we're going to call this the intensity of disruptiveness that an organization provides in society. And on this angle, we'll use quantity of events. The number of things an organization does and the disruptive nature of those things that an organization does. Give me an example of a company and a disruptive act or endeavor or mission that company was on. Andrew? Apple and iPhone. Okay? If we start with the iPhone, on scale of disruptiveness to society, to the world or to society, how far out on the scale did the iPhone disrupt? Would you say it was here, or if this was we're not going to say there's infinity, we're going to say there's some point. Where would the iPhone be on the scale of disruptiveness? If this was 1 and this was 100, would it be 90? Would it be 80? What would you view it to be?
Like
99.
95.
All right. Somewhere between here and here is where the iPhone would be. Is that correct? And there's no precision to this, so this is a means of discussion, not a quantitative analysis. There's no way we can analyze, particularly for today's discussion, whether it's 96.5 or whether it's 88. I personally think they're over here somewhere because, to me, they've created a way to take out a very, very lucrative, non-disrupted piece of the market. Let's talk about Uber for a second. Is Uber on this disruption scale somewhere? If we were to place Uber somewhere, we would say that they were pretty highly disruptive. Would you say they'd be right around there? And we said this was the quantity of events or things that Uber does. And if this is 0 and this is, say, 100 plus, the number that they had is like right here. Is that right? So if this were a graph, we would place Uber on this graph somewhere right around here. Is that correct? Agree or disagree? Give me the name of a company that makes toilet paper. What's the manufacturer? That's not their corporate name, right? P&G. Okay. What's the quantity of things that P&G makes?
A lot.
So P&G would be way up this quantity side. How many things that consumer products that P&G makes are disruptive? So if you were to put P&G on this graph somewhere, would it be here? Large number of events or products or things they do with a minimal amount of disruption to the marketplace. Is that a fair description of P&G? The very first version of Kleenex that came out that replaced having a cloth, laundered handkerchief was disruptive. But the iterations of Kleenex or disposable tissues, the subsequent iterations are not that disruptive. So as we try to understand where you would put P&G as a company, we wouldn't put them where Uber is, because Uber doesn't create a lot of different things, but what they created was highly and significantly disruptive. Whereas P&G makes a ton of consumer products, the likes of which the vast majority of them are not hugely disruptive, but there's a very large quantity of them. So these are the extremes of this graph when we talk about the entrepreneurial intensity of a company. The purpose to go through this exercise as we continue to do it is, how do I get you to look at a company, evaluate it from another angle, and decide whether it's a place you want to work, do business, or in your own venture, where is your venture? Are you making not hugely disruptive products, but a lot of them, or are you making a few very disruptive products or endeavors? And how do you frame that if you're communicating to somebody else? Let me just wrap up by trying to make a point, and that is the theorists behind this model postulated that great companies, and it's an entirely different set of authors and theorists than Jim Collins, postulated great companies strive to be right here, which is disruptive and innovative to a high extent, but not basing it on one or two things like Uber, where somebody else can come along or some set of circumstances can bury you. So you need a significant quantity of offerings, events, products, whatever, and at the same time, in order to be truly great, they have to make a difference. So it's quantity and intensity. I find a little fault in that because I don't think P&G is such a bad company, but they tend to be less disruptive but have a high quantity of products. And I agree that Disney probably is right here. This would be a theoretical great place to be, and I do believe it describes Amazon, who, for all intents and purposes, is currently the greatest company in commerce right now. And they do have a high degree of innovative and disruptive activities, as well as a large quantity. So if they were the gold standard for this model, then that would be the right place. But again, to go back to why I wanted to go through this exercise, I truly believe that you need to be able to look at a company from a variety of different ways. We spent this whole semester looking at it entirely differently, mostly from a leadership and nuts and bolts perspective, as opposed to a theoretical perspective based on these two critical axes. So, and if I just talked about it but didn't visualize it, you could easily forget this. So I hope the visualization, as rudimentary as this is, will cause you to remember this when you look at a company either you're creating, you're thinking of going to work for, a department in a company you're working in, or a company you may have to interact with and do business with as a potential vendor or whatever. So that was the purpose of it. I hope I see a bunch of you guys at dinner, and if not, I'll see you next week.